G'day, Keithy here. Thanks for joining me again. So we got radar in another video. Always keen to jump in a video this big fella. Talking Range Rovers, but more so we're actually talking BF Goodrich KM3s. How good are they? How are they compared to say the old KM2s or even some Coopers or Mickey T's? What I liked about them, what I didn't like about them, and would I get them again? So sit back, grab yourself a cuppa or a beer, and we'll have a bit of a chat about BF Goodrich KM3s, mud terrains. Well, we couldn't go without checking this out.
Comparing tyres now. G'day, Keithy here.
G'day, Keithy here. Alright, so these are my KM3s. These, I've got them in the size of 285, 75, 16, so that's a 33 inch in the old money. Everyone loves a good 33 inch tyre, and I tell you what, I've had a good time with these things over about the 5 years that I've had them installed now. They've been a very good tyre. As you can see, I can stick my finger in there. We've still got tons and tons of tread on these tyres. But at about 5 years of age, they're coming to the end of their life. Now, normally I try and I do about a 5 year cycle on tyres, just because after a bit of time they start to harden up and then they wear really weird, do some strange things. So Cape York was the baptism of fire for these tyres. I got them fitted, and then like not even a week later, I was off on the way to the first Cape York trip for these tyres, and I ended up I've done about 3 or 4 Cape York trips on these tyres so far. Among all of the other trips that I've done, obviously I've done heaps of other stuff. If you look through my videos, you'll see stuff like that, the Cape York trip and whatnot through there. They've been a good off-road tyre, they've been a good on-road tyre in that time. Throughout the life of these tyres so far, I've had the TPMS installed in all 5 of my tyres. I was going to get a 6th one, but I didn't end up getting the 6th. And I haven't needed to, luckily. So the TPMS, I did a video on that up there, you have a look for that one. So there were 3 instances where I had flat tyres, and yeah, going back to that TPMS, it's been really handy because I managed to pick up the tyres were going down in pressure before they actually got to 0. Most often that TPMS, you can see the video there, it'll pick them up when it's gone down by about 5 psi. So say I'm running around at 15 or 20 psi off-road somewhere, it's not even at 10 pounds before it starts beep, 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 and I can get onto it, which has been fantastic, which means I haven't been driving on a dead flat tyre, and I've been able to work out what the problem was. I've had one flat tyre from something actually penetrating the top of the carcass, and believe it or not, that was actually it was an old nail on the telegraph track in Cape York from when they were constructing the line. It was actually on the track. I don't probably have if I've got a picture, I'll put the picture of it up, because it was actually an original nail from the tele track stuck in here. And the other 2 times that the tyres have gone down have been the beads. When I was out 4-wheel driving in the muddy, wet stuff and you're slipping around and whatnot, it was actually a bead problem in these wheels. I don't know whether it's something by the dynamic wheels or just being, they're very, very narrow bead on these wheels compared to the Land Rover wheels that were on it. Never had a flat on any other wheel on my Range Rover in all of the years I've had it until I got these dynamic wheels and the 33s. But yeah, one punch is not a bad thing, especially when it was an actual nail. It wasn't just a rock on the ground or something silly like that. It was a proper nail in there. But other than patching the hole in it, it wasn't a problem to get it back to a usable state, that tyre. I put a patch in it and away we went. So I'll go through the good, the bad and the ugly. First we'll start off with the good. Now for tyres that have got 85,000 Ks on them, I'm pretty impressed. They're only about halfway through their life. As you can see here, there's a little bit of a wear indicator there. Hasn't even touched that yet, although I will say probably due to the lift, there are some wheel balance, wheel alignment issues. I'll talk to you about that in a second. But otherwise, these tyres are in great condition for their age and the amount of kilometres that they've done. So I've never actually had one of these tyres come off a rim, which is fantastic. Given that I was a little bit sceptical on the rims to start off with, they've held out quite well for about 5 years of abuse. They're good on-road, they're good off-road, and they're good in the mud. So I've been stuck twice in the 5 years that I've had these tyres. 2 times I've needed attention, and as you can see, I don't have the rear mudguard on this one. That's one of the times that I was stuck at the 4-wheel drive club's farm about, I don't know what it would be now, 4 years ago, I'd say, 3 or 4 years ago. Extremely muddy, and really I was a fool for going through it. It actually broke a snatch strap trying to pull me forward, so I had to get pulled backwards to get out of that one. And the other time that I got bogged was actually at Cape York and Gunshot Creek, funny enough, and there's a video of that one getting around. There's no actual proper footage of me getting stuck there other than the drive up too, so I won't put the footage up for that one. So on my other Range Rover, many years ago, I actually had the KM2 BF Goodrich tyres. These are the KM3 mud terrains, obviously. What's the difference between the two? Well, I think personally, the KM2s were a lot quieter on the road than the KM3s, but they're much the same in the other terrains, off-road, mud, etc. As for noise, road noise has been fantastic with these tyres, although as you'll probably hear in a second, I'll talk about the later life of these tyres, now that they're starting to get old. And the last good thing I want to tell you about is the balance. So when I had these tyres fitted originally, the only balance it needed was to offset the tyre pressure monitoring system I've got in my wheels. Absolutely fantastic that the tyres were reasonably well balanced without needing any work to keep them balanced. They've driven fantastic for about 85,000 kilometres now. I'm extremely happy with them, although they still do have some points that I really think they could be improved on. So while these KM3s have got a lot of good things about them, and I absolutely love those good things, there are some bad things that I've got to tell you about in my experience with these tyres. So 5 years and about 85,000 kilometres so far. That's fantastic range for a set of mud terrain tyres. Back in the day, you wouldn't have even seen 70,000. So one of the first negatives that I've got is that after about 70,000 kilometres, so that's about the last 15,000 kilometres I've had these tyres on, they've actually started to get quite loud and hummy. And I've been playing around with the tyre pressures to try and stop it from doing that, thinking that maybe the tyres were a little bit too low in pressure or too high, but I haven't been able to stop that on-road hum since about the last 15,000 Ks of their life, which is, yeah, like I said, about between 70 and 85,000 kilometres on the old trip meter. These tyres have done pretty well up to then, but I can't find a way to stop them from being loud now. Now in the back, obviously, there's no adjustment for wheel alignment, where the front there is, and I've noticed at the front they're actually starting to feather a little bit as well. While I'm not extremely concerned, given the life I've got out of these tyres so far, part of me thinks that it might actually be for the suspension lift that's caused that kind of wear issue at the front. At the back, they've been reasonably well, so when I do rotate the tyres, the back ones seem to flatten them out after the fronts have sort of given them that little bit of a wobble hum. But if you know anything about tyres, alignment, or how they can feather, and I'll show you that in a minute, then sing out, let me know if there's a reason or a way that I can stop it from doing that, because there is still quite a lot of tread on here. So another point with these tyres is I've had chips in the carcass of the tyres where the tread is since I got the tyres, since my very first trip. Now I went back to my tyre boy and I showed him. He actually contacted BF Goodrich, sent some photos through, and I'll show you some footage of what I'm talking about in a second. They were concerning because I thought that the tyres might have been delaminating, and that was from a new tyre. But I can tell you now, 5 years on, 85,000 kilometres, and I haven't had a flat, or definitely nothing related to those little tiny chips that I've got in the tyres. So personally, I would say it may have just been an alignment issue or something at the time. I don't know, I'm no expert here. But I've definitely had no problem with these tyres because of that chipping in the carcass of the tyre. All right, so I'll take you through these tyres. I'll start with the spare and I'll work my way down to the front, and then we'll go onto the passenger side as well. And I'll show you what I was talking about with those chips, but I'll also show you tyre wear and what I've got through these tyres so far. Okay, so you're seeing the spare here, looking from the top down. Now that feathering issue that I was talking about, hopefully you can see that there. If you look in the center between this one here and this one here, you can see they've feathered a little bit. So that one sits a bit lower than this one, and then this one sits a bit lower than the next one, and then this one sits, so you can see that's worn slightly more than that one, for example. That's one of the issues that I've had. Like I mentioned before, I think that could be related to the suspension lift that I've got in this thing more than the tyre itself, although I'm no expert. I'll show you around this tyre. Now this is the spare for a reason, because it's got a plug in it. Don't know if you can see that here. But remember how I said before about the chipping in the carcass of the tyre? So you can see just one there. There's another one along here, just in there. If you keep looking, you can see that one there. And it's all around the tyre. There's one along there. There was one just up here a second ago. I've lost him now. Up there, there it is. So there's tons of these around all of the tyres. There's another one right in there. There's two in there. So you can keep going around the tyre and see that kind of stuff, that chipping, pitting, whatever you want to call it. As I mentioned, the tyre shop were not too concerned with it, and BF Goodrich themselves said that it was okay. And I've done approximately 85,000 Ks on these tyres. Obviously I've rotated, so they haven't all done exactly 85,000 Ks. But I can say that these little chips haven't actually created any kind of leaks, so I'm not too concerned with it, and I've been on them for some time. As for tread wear, you can see yourself, fantastic. Like I said, there's that little bit of feathering that kind of irritates me a little bit that it is actually happening. It's probably something due to the suspension lift, but it hasn't affected the life of the tyres because I'm still not even at the wear indicators on some of these things. You can see that one's actually just hit the wear indicator there. But as far as lifetime has gone, 85,000 kilometres is fantastic. So that's the spare now, and that was rotated about, I'd say about 10,000 Ks ago. We'll go and have a look at these other tyres now. So this is the right rear. Now, as with all the tyres, they've got little marks every now and then, and I'm sorry that this tyre is actually dirty. I'm just going to try and find a mark on the outside. There's one here, but it's not extreme. Some of them, there's a chip there that's come out. There's another mark there. But you're pretty hard pressed on all of these tyres to find some bad wear on the actual outside of the tyre. All of the tyres, like I said before, have got the chipping inside. Now I'd have to put this camera right up in there to show you on this particular tyre, which is tucked up a little bit, which I won't be able to do there, but you can just see right there, there's one, another one there, there, and there. So this tyre's got quite a lot on them. This one spent most of its life on the front of the car, funny enough. So you can't sort of blame it on weight of the rear of the car being heavier than the front or anything like that. About the last 15,000 Ks it's done on the back, and it had the chips before it went on the back. But as you can see there, the wear on that tyre is fantastic. So I'm very impressed with that. Now we move down to the front. We'll go to the driver's front tyre, right front for anyone overseas. As with all the tyres, this one's looking fantastic. Same again, as you can see the chips in there if you have a bit of a look around. I'm not going to show you every one, but each tyre's got about 1 million of them. They have been fantastic. They've got plenty of life left in them, although I'm probably going to give them about another 6 or 12 months and I will be getting a new set of tyres. As with the rear tyres, if you have a look around, there's not really too much damage in the sidewalls. There's a tiny little crack there, and that's not the same as the stuff that's up on the top here. That's just from rubbing up on something when I was off-road. But if you look around, you'll see they're in pretty good nick. Here's another pretty decent little cut there. But they've done pretty well all in all for nearly 5 years, and hard four-wheel driving, all the Cape York stuff, plus all of the other stuff I've done in between, and I haven't even recorded everything. As I mentioned before about that feathering, which is creating a hum as I drive, I don't know if you can see it as well as I can see it right now. If you look up towards the front, you can sort of notice that that block there is sitting higher or proud compared to this block, and this block here is sitting higher than that block there. It's very hard to get a good video of it and explain it, but it makes that hum on the road, and it's rather annoying. And I've had it aligned. There's a good alignment that I've had done on it. So it's not the wheel alignment. I don't know whether it's a tyre or whether it's the suspension lift, and it's just created a little tiny bit of an off camber or something like that. So when I'm turning corners, it's just not wearing correctly. I've tried mucking around with the tyre pressure. So like I said before, if you know anything about tyres and why it's doing this, then definitely let me know. I'd really appreciate it. But otherwise, like I said, there's plenty of tread on these tyres. All of them have got about the same. We'll go around to this left front now and have a bit of a look around here. Now you're not going to see on top of this one too much because he's tucked up in the guard there. Like I mentioned before, they've all got little bits of wear and whatnot on them. Not too bad for 5 years of tyre. A little bit of feathering on the end of that one there. But all in all, the sides of these things have taken an absolute beating, and I'm really impressed with them so far. All right, and we'll go and have a look at the last of the tyres. Left rear at the moment, straight away you can see how the tyre wear indicator, it's not a wear indicator, it's just rubbed through, so it's sitting flat on this one, but it's not flat on this one or this one. So, and then all across here, so this line here is pretty well sitting lower than these ones here. So that, again, these ones have come off the front. So I don't know whether it was the front end causing this issue or not, but it creates that little hum and a light vibration in the car as you're driving along. If you know anything about it, please let me know. As far as the picks and little cuts in these tyres, you can see one straight there. All of them have got it. The outside of this tyre, like all of the other tyres, they're in really good nick for 5-year-old tyres. Not much going on out here, and they need a bit of a wash to show you how pretty they look, but that's not what it's all about. There's one tiny little cut there from a bit of driving off-road, but otherwise I haven't copped anything in the sidewall that's made me concerned over the years. So all in all, pretty great tyres, really. 85,000 kilometres of hard driving. They haven't had an easy life. All right, so that's the KM3s on my car after about 85,000 kilometres. What did I think of them? Was I happy with the distance that I got? Would I get them again? And do I think they're better than the old KM2s? Well, I'm going to say yes to all. Yes, I do think they are better than KM2, although end of life, the road noise, not so impressed with that, although like I said before, that could be to do with my suspension lift. If you've seen my suspension lift video up there, you'll understand what that's all about. Did I get some good distance with them? Yeah, I think 85,000 Ks is fantastic. That mozzie bites me. And the big one, will I get them again? Well, at this stage, I'm looking at getting the BF Goodrich KM3s for my next set of tyres. Unless something comes up in between that would suggest that I should get another set of tyres, I think the KM3s have done a fantastic job, and I'm sure Radar agrees here. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. If you like the video, if you like what I've got going on my channel, have a bit of a look through there. See what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. Give me some suggestions, and if you're a tyre guru, let me know if you know what's happening with that pattern on the top of the tyres, whether it's a suspension related thing or whether it's just the tyres getting old that have done that. Otherwise, thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time. We'll catch you in the next video.